Whether it be my story or my guest stories, we all share parts of the human experience. In our own ways, we have all faced triumph and challenges, both joy and pain, both gratitude and grief. My life changed forever on October 11, 2019, the day I had a stroke. It had a ripple effect, not only for me, but also for those I cherish. Through grace, we are here today to pay it forward. It's my mission to focus on what brings us together and help people find their path through life stories. Approximately 1 in 8 couples in the U.S. suffer from infertility. My friend, Jenn Bonicelli, and her husband, Jordan, were just one of them. The journey can take years for couples and sometimes can be unsuccessful. But their journey has a beautiful ending. Jenn is a co-author of You Can Too, the Essential Twins Preparation Guide, and the co-founder of the blog Two Came True. I always say that everybody has a story. Jenn clearly has a great one. So welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me everything. Okay. The first rule is if it is none of my business, tell me.
Okay.
So how did you get into the twin business?
Well, because I have twins who are 9 now. And ironically, I have a friend who also has twins who are now 5. When we worked together in a school, she was pregnant and I had come back after maternity leave. And she was done. She was like, I cannot come back after the boys are born. What are we going to do? And she had forced me to come back to work because I wasn't going to. She was like, I refuse to work here unless you come back. You must come back. So I did. And when she was then going to turn around and leave, I was like, what? This is not fair. So we came up with an idea to write a book to discuss and share our infertility journeys. We found some humor in it. There were some private moments that are pretty humiliating, but are pretty funny when you look at it from a different perspective.
Okay, can we go back?
Yeah.
Tell the story of the infertility.
Well, Jordan and I struggled to get pregnant, and we didn't struggle for very long when I just knew something was wrong. I kind of always knew something was wrong. And when I look back on it now, I'm pretty sure I had that inclination in my head from a young age.
Wow.
So when I started to feel like something wasn't right, I just went to the doctor. Even though when you look at the information online, they're like, oh, wait for 6 months. You need to have this, and this.
Mr. Google says.
Yes,
right?
Dr. Google says. And I didn't meet that criteria, but I wasn't going to wait. I was like, that's just my personality. If I don't like it, I'm going to fix it or find a way around it or however that pans out. So I went to the doctor and my doctor was great and she was willing to work with us and kind of help us figure out what was going on. And within probably a couple months, she said, I can no longer treat you. I feel like you need a specialist. So she sent us right on before we even hit that year mark of trying to have a baby. And when we went to the specialist, they do their rounds of testing and they want to figure out what's going on. And she had given us, based on a diagnosis that I have, which is a diminished ovarian reserve, basically my eggs age faster than me. And she said, you have a 3% chance of having a baby altogether. If we don't do anything, you'll probably never have a baby. And if we do IVF, you have a 35% chance of having a baby, which was that's pretty dire. That's a scary number to hear.
Did you cry when you...
Oh, I cried all the time. I was a hot mess. I was devastated by that information. And more so, I was devastated that none of this was going to be the path to parenthood that everybody expects it to be. That I wasn't going to get this gender reveal and all these exciting moments that people post all over the place nowadays. I was going to get a phone call from a doctor. And we just didn't have any of those moments that you kind of hoped and wished you would have. Mm-hmm. That was more what was devastating to me. And I knew that in the moment that they said, this is what you're going to have to do to have a baby. But I also wanted to have a baby. So we just went for it.
Okay, so did you feel inferior about yourself?
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm broken. I'm supposed to be able to do this. This is what nature says and society says. What's wrong with me? All of those typical questions go through your head. You just feel like, and nobody else is going through that. Mm-hmm. At the time that I was doing it, I was literally the only person I knew. And I had a friend whose sister-in-law had gone through IVF. She was significantly older than me. The only person I knew to reach out to was her. But I didn't know who she was. I had never met her even.
So who did you cry to?
Jordan. I mean, it was he and I together by ourselves trying to figure this out. Even my family didn't really understand it. Jordan's family, we just didn't really share much with. And we just kind of kept it to ourselves and put our heads down and got going by ourselves because that's the only option we had.
Okay, so the next step is?
So we did all of the testing, got all of the diagnoses, and then you make a plan. We're going to start at this point in time, which none of that plan actually panned out. When you get a date and you get an appointment and you're supposed to show up, something went wrong. Was it they found something that they needed to remove. So I had a couple surgeries.
Oh, my.
They have to change medication protocols a couple times. So the journey that we thought was going to be pretty straightforward, obviously things happen and you just don't know totally until you get there, really took turns all the time. And that was something I wasn't prepared for. So we've already hit the worst. What else can go wrong? Yeah. And it just felt like every time we went into the doctor, we had bad news. So when we finally got to the point where she's like, okay, I think we're going to be fine now, we were a year and a half past the point at which we started, which was a long time. Mm-hmm. When my sister was getting pregnant, my younger sister was getting pregnant, and people all around me were, making announcements that they were having children. And we were just like, we don't know if we're going to have children. So then we had to talk about, what if this doesn't work? What are our next options? What do we want to do beyond that? And those were some pretty deep and dark conversations. How are we going to have a family if we can't create it ourselves?
Do you want to go there?
I didn't want to go there, but I would have. I mean, I would have done anything. And I would have gone for egg donors to adoption if that's what our options were. But I was going to exhaust every option before we got to that point. Okay,
so the option that worked was
IVF. 1 round, which is very uncommon. Most people, and now I know, after I'd gone through it and I started to talk about it, people came out of the woodwork. And now I know most people don't get that lucky. We had 1 round, we had 2 embryos that were viable, and those were the 2 babies that we have.
Okay, so the purpose that I'm doing this show, the Lori show, right?
Yes.
Is because when I had my accident and I shared with you and other people, it made me more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But you thought you were the only one.
Right.
So when did you open up?
I mean, as things progressed and seemed more and more scary, I just couldn't hold it together. I was working and going to appointments and coming back to work. And while my boss knew what was going on, nobody else around me did. And it came to a point where I just couldn't pretend anymore. And I had friends, one of which now we are in business together, who just kind of picked me up and said, we'll figure this out, or we got you, or, whatever I needed. They would make meals. They would help me do anything. So it was kind of that eye-opening moment. As soon as I started to share, Yeah, it was vulnerable, but you realize that people rally when you're willing to be open.
Yeah. Okay. The boys are born.
Yes. Which not only getting pregnant with them, but getting them to Earth healthily having healthy boys born was a very stressful journey. Like, it wasn't an easy pregnancy. I was miserable. I was sick. We ran into problems, with them as they were developing. Luckily, once they were born, they were fine. And they didn't have NICU time. They were perfectly big and plump. Well, they weren't plump. They were pretty skinny, but they were healthy babies. And then we were able to kind of go on our parenting journey, which, brings its ups and downs as you go along now. But at least they're here and they're healthy.
Okay, fast forward.
Okay.
To what you do now.
Well, I do a lot of things. So after I left education, for a multitude of reasons, I was just kind of over it and didn't want to miss milestones, leaving the boys with a nanny. And my friend got pregnant and she had twins and she was like, I'm out of here too. What should we do? We started to write a book about our infertility journey because there aren't a lot of things out there, and there are not a lot of things that bring humor to it because there needs to be humor. I mean, it's a very dark journey, but like,
what was humorous?
It's finding it's perspective, finding the funny things that happen throughout it. Some of the embarrassing moments and the stories that we were just telling each other, and we thought it would be funny to put words to it and give that to other people who are going through the same thing. So we started writing it, and then somebody said to us, people don't really want to hear from the two women who have twins who are going through it. They see that you got your joy and your gift, but maybe you guys turn this story into helping people who are raising twins, because there again wasn't a lot of information out there for parents who are expecting twins. At the time, it was hard to find anything that was really valuable. A lot of stuff is about singletons, not a lot about twins. So we were like,
Singletons?
Single babies, that's what you call them. So we were like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. So that's when we just started creating content for parents that we would find helpful or that we needed at the time for ourselves. And we put it online, which is what created the blog. I mean, it was one of those things where we had no idea what we were doing, no idea if people would read it, no idea if it would work. And while it's not like the largest twin site out there, our purpose is to give all parents, we don't care what your family looks like, we want all families to feel included and accepted. But we want people to feel like you can do this and it's not that bad. A lot of things you read online they scare you. They make you feel like, oh, geez, what did I get myself into? I can't do this. But you can. You just need to adapt and power through a little bit and find things that work for you.
So, like, because the fear is double.
Yeah.
What I do is double.
Yeah, and some people who've had one baby then end up with twins, they know how to handle one, but you multiply that and it seems really scary. And people who've never had children are like, two babies. I mean, people just scare you. They say, oh man, your hands are going to be full, or oh, you're never going to sleep again, or how are you ever going to get out of the house by yourself? And those questions aren't helpful. Even those conversations are just defeating, and that doesn't feel good to people who are, you're pregnant now, those babies are coming like it or not. So we just really want to make people feel like you can do this and there's a way. You just need to believe that you'll be fine.
So how many blogs do you write?
Well, we have the one website. It's being repaired at the moment.
And that website is?
It's called Two Came True. And And then we've written 2 books. And ironically, we started out wanting to write a book, and then we thought, when you really look into the publishing world, it's not that simple. And we were like, oh, this is never going to happen. And then, what was it, 3 years into the business, we had a publisher contact us.
Wow.
Which we didn't know happened. And we kind of thought it was a crazy scam email when it came. But we thought, you know what, let's just see. And it worked out. And they came back to us for a second book. And we will see if they come back for more.
So what intrigued that publisher?
So the editor that actually approached us was a twin mom herself. And she said to us that she liked the voice that we wrote with. And we write together. So everything that we publish has been written by both of us. Like, sentences are literally comprised together. And so together, she liked this voice that we had, that it was positive and upbeat and encouraging and helping people in that way instead of scary. And, there are a lot of scary things about being pregnant with twins. It's very high risk pregnancy and raising twins, especially when they're infants.
Okay, so how many blogs are you going to write? How many books are you going to write?
Oh, man.
And what is your, what is your best advice?
I would definitely do any book that you throw at me. If our publisher comes back, I would do it in a heartbeat. It's fun. And it's one of those things I never considered in my life doing. I would have if you asked me to, but wasn't a dream I had, I guess. And then when it came to me, I was like, this is really cool. Like, yeah, I'll do this. So I would do it 100 times again.
Okay, the name of your first book is?
It's called You Can Too, TWO. And the second one is A Dad's Guide to Newborn Twins.
Wow. What do you think is the biggest challenge for the consumer, like people who are reading your blogs?
The number one thing people ask us about hire us to consult for is sleep issues. So babies just not sleeping at the same time, not sleeping, how to get them sleeping through the night. I think for new parents, sleep and the lack thereof it's hard to deal with. And all you want to do is get those babies sleeping longer chunks of time.
If you had to do it all again, what would you do?
I wouldn't change a thing.
Good answer.
Yeah. I am a strong believer that your story is your story for a reason. And if you change any part of it, what's today wouldn't be today. So I wouldn't change it.
In the end, what do you want us to know for your experiences?
The business is ever growing. And so we are constantly trying to make it better and make it more valuable to people. And I want people to know that myself and my business partner, we're open books and we believe in sharing our story because somebody out there needs to hear it or somebody out there needs the support.
The why.
Yeah. So what you need to know is just find us and we'll help you.
And how do you find that?
Online. You can go to 2cametrue.com or we're on social media too.
Okay.
All under 2cametrue.
Jenn, thank you for being honest and sharing your story.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do you have a story to share? I'd love to hear from you. Please visit LoriCorken.com. There you will find more stories like the one you heard today with our series, The Power of a Voice.